Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I hope you're all doing good today. So we are back in the shop after a little bit of a break, trip down to Phoenix. It was very fun. So I'll do a little bit of a recap, kind of talk about that if you missed it. And other than that, we're going to be pouring half and half blanks. So there's a couple different ways that you could do this. You could do top, pour a little bit and then pour a little bit more on top. You could do like a side by side, and there's, different ways that you can do it. So I was going to kind of discuss a few different ways, some strategies for doing that type of a blank. And then we're going to pour some. It should be pretty fun. So first off, before we even begin, I'm going to mention I have 2 blanks left in the square versions that I want to get rid of. I want to clean them out and move on to the round blanks. So I have 2 of them left, and they're on 50% off. I just buy them, just get them out of here, kind of thing. Uh-oh, I lost my screen. What just happened? That was weird. Anyway, so I have the duck, I call it, and that is for like the Oregon ducks. So it's green and yellow. So I'm going to put a link to that one, and I have a discount code that you have to enter when you check out to get that 50% off. But here's a link to the duck if you want to look at that. I think there's 4 left of those. And then the LSU purple and yellow, I call it Louisiana Tiger. And actually with that one, there's like maybe 8 left or something, like 6 or 8. With that one though, that one is going to be gone. I'm just completely replacing it. I have the Vikings one. I had both of these and they were slightly different before, but the reality is the Vikings and the LSU purple is pretty much the same. So the new one of the Vikings version is just going to cover both of them. I don't really see the point in having 2 with pretty much the same color. So the Vikings one is already round, and it's got purple, yellow, and white in it. And I like the looks of that one a little bit better. Anyway, so if you're interested in the purple and yellow, I'm not going to be making those anymore. Now, that's not to say that if you wanted a purple and yellow blank, you can contact me and I will make a custom batch. But there's minimum amounts that you have to do with custom orders. So why don't you just get a purple and yellow one for 50% off? That's what I'm saying. So the code is Flash50. All right, and thank you to everybody that's on the email newsletter list. We cleared 2 of I had 4 left, and 2 of the blanks are gone because of the email subscribers. You guys took advantage of the 50% off on the Husky blanks and the Dolphins flipper. But these 2 are left. Like I said, there's only about 4 left of the duck. I had a lot of those. And actually I had a lot of the LSU blanks because I was having a little bit of bleed issues with the purple and yellow, but and then green and yellow also sometimes tend to bleed, not in this color. The biggest thing with bleeding is like if you're using yellow, yellow is the bane of my existence. Yellow and anything dark tends to get a little bit muddy sometimes, but I've kind of figured out how to tame that on the round blanks now. But I had stocked up on some of the ones that were a little bit more difficult to give me a little bit more time to kind of figure out the technique with the round blank pours. So anyway, those 2 are on sale, like I said, Flash 50. And then those are the last 2. So I mean, most likely that this week is probably going to be it for the square blanks. No more square blanks. And I'm very excited about that because now everything's like cohesive. People don't come to my site. The worst part was I didn't really want to just be like, okay, I'm just going to throw all the old ones away. So it's been this transition, and I don't like that where like half of them are square, half of them are round, and people are like, what the heck's going on? So I'm very happy that everything's all the team color blanks, pretty much all my blanks at this point are round, and I love it. It's nice. So anyway, we had a great time in Phoenix. If you didn't catch, let me go grab a link. If you didn't catch the replays or the live streams, they had a bunch of demos that were really good. Again, I mean, they always do. Turner's TV, I'm going to go grab a link to their channel. And I'm just going to link to their like streams the page on their thing that shows like the previous live streams. That way you can kind of go through and look at all of them. There's going to be a few extras, but if you look at the oh, I don't know. There's a couple new ones that were not from like the demos, but then the ones with like a white background thumbnail, those are from the demos over the weekend, and there was really good ones, very good ones. I think one of the amazing things, like honestly, you know, like I mean, maybe you know, it's not as many demos all going on at once, but I mean, compared to a lot of the you know, paid for, you got to pay for entrance to these events like the symposiums. I mean, you know, you're paying a good amount of money, and granted, there's like multiple options like going on at the same time, but you're paying for those things. And like the Turner's Warehouse open house, it's all free, and there's like the same, you know, caliber of people demoing at this thing, and it's really pretty awesome. Like, so if you know, they usually have it in the spring. You know, if you want to, and every year they make it better, literally. So if you're thinking about, you know, hey, I want to go to an event or something like that, it's a pretty good weekend. It's free. You know, you just got to get out there. Did I put a link? Yeah. So there's that. And make sure to subscribe to their channel, because they do live streams on Wednesdays, and they have all kinds of good videos too. I always talk about the live streams, but they have excellent videos on their channel as well. They're doing everything over there. I don't know how they get it all done. But anyway, it was a really good weekend. So many people, lots of people that I got to meet finally in person. That was awesome. So thank you to everybody that came out. Darren came from Kansas, is that right? I get all the Midwest kind of areas mixed up. But anyway, he flew all across the country to come out. It was pretty awesome. And so did Dan. He came from, not Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. You know, like people flew, you know, came across the country to come to this thing. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah, I had a great time. Thanks for coming out, Mark. It was great to meet you. Lots of great people out there. And I got some cool stuff. So one thing that was kind of cool, yeah, so there's Marquetta. Marquetta was doing something interesting. I thought it was pretty cool. She had like scraps left over, and she wasn't like, you know, doing like a booth. You know, Turner's has the lathe buddies, but I thought it was pretty cool. She brought sewing machines out, and she was giving you, I forget what the name of these guys are, but they're just like little cloths, and she put on the logo. She sewed the logo on for you. You could pick colors and all this stuff. So we got like a little bit of a little rag buddy. Which I actually used it while I was there. It was perfect. So that was pretty cool. And if you guys aren't aware, Daniel over at Turner's Warehouse, he does lots of really cool 3D printing, and I snagged myself a really cool looking frog, and I'm going to put it up on my shelf behind me. He does like all their designs for the 3D print blanks and all that stuff. He is just killing it with 3D printing. Like seriously, he is amazing. So I'm going to put this guy up on my, I got to dust this thing off, it looks like. Ugh. But I'm going to put that guy right there. He's pretty cool. And Gretchen got one too. She got a little octopus guy. So pretty cool. And then I got a bunch of stickers. The one that I'm really proudest of, I won one of the, so they had this thing that was going to charity. It was like 50-50 charity. Money was going to charity, and then like 50% was going to the cook. They had like a professional cook out there doing burgers and stuff. But I won one of the boxes. So you like paid money, and then there was like 2 possible lock combinations on this little lock box thing, and I chose the right combination, and I was very excited. But the best part is I got this sticker in that pack, and I mean, I got some blanks and some cool stuff, but this sticker is on fire. I can't wait to put it up. So and I forgot, I actually got a Jake Blanks sticker at SWAT last year and forgot about it. And another one was Around Town, Mike and Michelle, and a Magic Juice sticker that I forgot to put on my pressure pot, and then Miller Custom Leatherworks. And this time out there, I got the Nightmare Artifacts. Nightmare Artifacts, that's Daniel. So I got a sticker from him. So that was pretty awesome. Lots of stickers and cool people. So I'm actually not going to put these on a pressure pot yet because I am going to be putting a new pressure pot here, and these are going to be prime real estate for the new pressure pot. So I'm not going to put them up right now, but I should be getting a new pressure pot very soon. I'm just kind of waiting for some new the Beast molds to get back in stock at Turner's warehouse, and then I'm going to put in a gigantic order of all kinds of good stuff, including the pen press that I want to get. So pretty awesome. You came in at the right time. I'm giving you all kinds of shout outs and all that kind of good stuff. Now, one other thing that I want to mention, and I got to go get another link. All kinds of stuff happened this weekend. I was very excited to be able to use one of the, I'm going to get two links here. I was excited, so I did my demo and we did a 12 color pour, but although the table was way too short for me to work at, they have the shortest table at Turner's warehouse. And it made it a little bit more difficult, but I like having a desk that's a little bit more my height. And this isn't finished, but I got to use one of Jake's cup holder things, and I don't have, I'm currently literally right now printing out the top part of this thing, but it basically has holes in it, and there's two different like sizes or whatever. For me, I like the one, it's got 6 holes, and it holds basically your cups in place. And for me, like the big cups, I don't do a lot of like bigger cups, and like really need to hold them in place. I usually just pick them up and stir them. But when you're doing like 12 colors and stuff like that, with a bunch of little cups are the ones that are a pain for me. And like I've always kind of wished I had like some sort of a holder. So what I did was I went on Jake's website, I purchased the STL files, and I'm 3D printing out my own little racks. And so like I said, I'm waiting for the final piece. There's one more piece that snaps in here that has holes in it, and it holds your cups in place, so you can just, without having to like pick up every cup and mess around with it, just stir your resin in and dyes and all that stuff. And it's pretty awesome. So I wanted to link to that. I was very, very happy to be able to use it during my demo to keep all the cups in order. So I'm going to drop a link. So there's two things. If you have a 3D printer, I think this is the greatest option, that he sells the 3D print files. So, and it's both of them. There's, like I said, there's like a 6 cup smaller holes, and then there's a 4 cup bigger holes file. So depending on what you need. And for me, you know, like this is going to be for doing like lots of little cups. So I'm actually going to have 2 of these guys printed out. I might even like clip them together or something like that. But for having like, you know, 12 cups and stuff like that, these are going to be amazing. You can print as many as you want if you've got if you've got a 3D printer. Now, if you do not have a 3D printer though, do not fear, because he's also selling, I'm just going to put a link. He's also selling the actual, the actual things. Like he prints them and you buy them. Hey, there's Jake. And he'll just, send you buy it, and he'll send you the pieces, and you got your own little holder, even if you don't have a 3D printer. And he's got a couple different things where you can get like 2 of one, 2 of the 6, 2 of the 4, or just 1, or whatever you want. So did I put a link to that one too? Shoot. Nice cup holders. I know, they are sweet. So there's a link to the cup holders themselves, where if you don't have a 3D printer, you can just buy the actual physical product. He'll send it to you. But like I said, I have a 3D printer, and I was like, oh, you got the files? Sweet. I'm going to buy them. So, and it's pretty cool. I think it's kind of fun. Like if you have your own 3D printer, I was like, oh, I'm going to make them all like blue and white, my my business colors. And so it's kind of fun. I don't know. I just wanted to shout that out because it was really nice having that thing. And like I said, a lot of times if I'm doing, for a lot of the pours that I do, I don't feel like I need it for like the big cups. If I got like 2 or 3 cups that are kind of bigger, I don't really need one personally. But doing that 12 color pour, I was like, heck yeah. And I just wish that the the desk was a little higher to stir in, but it's going to be great in my own little space here. So let's see here. Yeah. Lots of people, lots of stuff going on. Let's see here. Just making sure I'm not missing anything here. Yeah, and one of the cool things about Daniel, he's actually from up north, up in northern Nevada in Tahoe. So we got to talk a little bit. We need more time together to really talk about stuff up here and get some stuff. But he's from originally from the Incline area, which I'm closer to the South Shore. And my grandma had a house up there, so I know South Lake Tahoe a lot better. So he had some ideas of places that we can go and check out up in Incline, which is also great because my sister lives just down the hill from Incline also, so we can kind of take them up there and do some fun stuff. So it's pretty cool. Let's see here. So let me scroll down, just make sure I'm not missing anything. Adam's watching. How's it going, Adam? And yeah, we were talking to Marquetta and Adam, and it turns out he's an appraiser, and I used to be an appraiser, so we had a little bit of something in common there. I actually wanted to talk to him a little bit more, so I might have to. Well, I'm thinking about going over. I haven't. Don't hold me to this yet, but kind of depends on money and some other stuff. But I might be going to the Colorado Turning Symposium. I think it's Rocky Mountain Turning Symposium or something like that in September. So that's on my list of things to do. And then also the Pacific Northwest Pen Show. I've been wanting to do that one because it is on the West Coast. So I might be doing that, and I think that's in July. So those are two that are on the list. They're penciled in at this moment. But I think I'm going to do one or maybe both of those this year. Like I said, just need to make sure that the funding and everything is good and there's nothing weird going on with the schedule. So anyway, it was a great weekend. Like I said, if you guys get the chance to go to the Turner's Warehouse open house next year, definitely go. I'm going to be going for sure. I always do that one just because it's super, one of the nice things is it's super low key. like it has all of the great elements of the bigger shows and things like that. It's got a lot of that those elements, but it's super chill. It's just really a fun time basically. So if you get a chance to do that, definitely check it out. Yeah, Rocky Mountain, so Rocky Mountain Turning Symposium, it's, smaller than SWAT or, some of the bigger ones, but I have heard, and I've heard for many years that one's a pretty good one. It's smaller, but it's again, kind of a little bit more intimate and maybe less going on or whatever, but at the same time still, well set up and all that kind of stuff, and lots of people go. And from everybody that I've talked to that's gone to it, they're like, oh, it was really good. So hopefully this year's just as good. So let's see here. Yeah, Chad and Amy do a really well, and the whole crew. This is another thing, not to say that in the past, the crew was any different, but they have got a good crew right now, all cylinders firing, kind of thing on everybody that works there. It's just an amazing thing. So congrats to everybody and good job. All right, so for today, we're going to do 50-50 blanks. Now, like I said, there's different ways you could do this, and you can do it in pretty much any type of mold. Let me get a Jake blank. There it is. Get my singles. So you could do vertical round. You could do horizontal. So when I say vertical, I mean like tubes. You're pouring it vertically. You could do horizontal molds. You could do a block mold. You could do the singles. And there's lots of different ways you can do this. So I'm going to cover, I'm not going to be pouring horizontally. Like I said, at this point, I just absolutely love doing round blanks. They're my favorite. And today what I want to do is, I want to do the tall blanks. So I don't have any gigantic horizontal molds anyway. But let's go to the overhead view. So one simple way to do this without a lot of setup and messing around, depending on, you need to think about, if you're doing horizontally, especially in a block square mold, you need to think about what direction are you going to be cutting the blanks out at. So, in my case, typically what I would do, you could do it either way technically. If you wanted longer blanks, you could cut them longer. Typically, I have a 5-inch by 6-inch mold. So this will produce 6 blanks that are 5 inches long. but I'm cutting it this way, right? So that's something to keep in mind depending on how you want to do this. But the simplest way to make 50-50, and when I say 50-50, I'm talking about just like two colors that are like stacked. You know, just like bisecting the blank, I guess, would be a way to say it. I don't have a blank in front of me, but you know, like where, you know, one half of the blank and one half of the blank. Now, keep in mind, if you're doing a 50-50 and you're trying to make a a two-piece pen out of it, you're probably going to get two colors. So in some cases, you may want to actually do like a 2/3, 1/3 or something like that, so that you have this kind of differentiation at some point in the middle of the blank, but something to keep in mind. But the simplest way to do this, so again, if my blank is going this way, you grab two cups and just literally pour them at the same time. And it's not going to be a perfect division line in this case, but it's a very simple way to get two colors in one blank. And it's kind of nice to have a little bit of variation at where they intersect. But if you pour the liquids and try to kind of pour them at about the same rate, your mold is going to fill kind of at the same rate, and you're going to get a bisection. Now, depending on where, you know, it's dumping in at, that's probably going to be the closest point, and then it'll kind of splay out a little bit more on the edges. But that's the simplest way without even messing around with anything. You got two colors, two cups, just dump them in there. Another thing you can do is, you know, you can go with the singles, you know, whatever, and that's almost easier. Like you can really, you got a lot of control to do that. And again, you're just picking it up, pour them at the same time, and you're good to go. Now, one other thing that you could do is find some sort of you'd have to get the right size. That's really not the right size. If you wanted a little bit more of a straight line at the, you know, again, when we're doing like a 50-50 this way. Now, there's also, you can do 50-50 the other way. And all of this stuff kind of is the same. It's a little harder to pour in singles and get like a real 50-50 in a single, like if you're doing it side by side like that. However, you could put something in the mold and dam it up basically, and then just pull it out. So, you know, stick this in there. You need to make sure that this is pretty tight though, so you don't get too much leakage. And then at that point, you got a pretty straight line, and then you just pull this out kind of, you know, slowly, and you got your blank. And you can make, you know, just get yourself some, you know, like I said, the right size, but just get, you know, short little pieces of material, wood or whatever you got on hand. Plastic works too. Put them all in there, dump your resin in, and you got a pretty straight line. Now, another way that you could go with this, if you want to get a little bit more technical, is if you've got a 3D printer, you could literally just print a mold that has like a very thin dam in between, whichever way you want to go. And you'll have like a line, right? Like, so you may want to go with like a white or something like that, some kind of a color that kind of goes. You could try to match up the resin color with your 3D printing filament a little bit. So let's say you went blue and white, you can maybe use like either a white or a blue. I'd say white would probably be the best option in that case. But you try to match up the blue 3D print filament with like a blue resin, and then it won't stick out where you've got this like thing in the middle. Or you can just go for, let's say you were doing like green and blue and then put a white one in the middle where you've got this kind of division line. The other thing is you could just cut that out, you know, if you wanted to. But it'd be kind of just a little trim line. And this is also something that you can do. You could stack this kind of thing and create little lines in your blanks. Again, 3D printing would probably be the best way to go, but you could even do it where, you know, you're using like resin material, like pour a flat, thin, you know, resin thing first, let it kind of cure, and then stick little, you know, bits in your mold, and you can get these little division lines. It's kind of cool. Now, so like I said, I'm not going to do horizontal today. I want to do the kitless blanks, but that's pretty much, I'm trying to think if there's any other things with like doing it horizontally. I've done that, you know, a few times, and like I said, it's very simple. You just basically pour at the same time and you get pretty good results. I'd say if you're really going for like, not going for sticking things in there and making it a little bit more complicated, I think you're probably best off trying to get that effect doing singles, like the Jake Blank molds. That you have a lot of control doing it one at a time, and the resin just kind of meets, and then as you continue filling it, it just kind of, the line kind of goes pretty much straight up, and it's very simple. Now, if you're doing vertical pours, it gets a little bit more difficult because you've got gravity not on your side, right? I'm gonna just grab a smaller, in fact, I think I might even grab a PVC pipe. You don't need to use silicone. You could use PVC pipes if you want, anything that's like a pipe vertical. And of course you'd want to first spray a PVC pipe and then put a plug in the bottom. But in this case, the simplest way, obviously, we're going to pour one color down in, and then we're going to pour another one on top. It's very simple. That makes it sound almost kind of stupid, like this isn't, very tough. But the thing about doing it vertically, you don't want to just dump it in there because the gravity is going to accelerate that second color a lot, and it's going to kind of splash down in, and you're going to get a lot more. You're not going to get like an even division line. So one thing, and I would say this kind of goes across the board, one thing you're going to want to do, as we almost always do, is we're going to want to wait till the end of the working time of the resin. But in this case, I would actually, if you are typically at the temperature, that your shop is right now, and if everything else was equal and you're just doing like kind of a normal swirl blank, I would probably increase the temperature that you pour at. So, you use your infrared thermometer to check your temperature in the cup. I would increase that, 5, maybe 10 degrees, something like that. I mean, you'll have to kind of play with it in your own conditions, but I'd say you want to go for even thicker and closer to the end of the working time, where it's going to kind of harden up quick. That way you don't get too much mixture. And the thing is, there's going to be some, okay? So you're not going to get some even line when you're pouring it vertically. But that kind of makes it fun, where there's this kind of transition zone. I kind of like doing it in the vertical because you get a little bit more variation throughout the blank. Now, a couple other things to keep in mind if you're doing it vertically, especially if you're going to do white, all right, so in the realm of all the dyes, the liquid pigments, this doesn't, I'm just trying to think if there's something specific outside of liquid pigments, but if you're doing like dyes, like whether it's Alumilite dye, or you're doing like a liquid pigment like Divine Pigments or something like that, or there's many other brands out there, white is very, very heavy, okay? And if you're gonna do like a white and then another color, you're gonna wanna pour the heavy one first, for sure. Otherwise, it's definitely just gonna drop and start sinking through that other color. So make sure to do the heaviest color first. If you're doing a vertical, I'd say that is probably the #1 tip. Otherwise, you're gonna get like a trail. And even if you did like where it's almost evenly weighted, pigments or whatever it may be, you're still probably going to get a little bit of variation. Like I said, I like that a little bit because typically you don't just have like a dead line in the middle. You get this kind of weird variation in the middle, transition zone, which is kind of cool. But again, stay away from, the heavy ones being poured second. And, from my pigments, typically you can kind of feel which ones are heavy, but anything that's got a lot of white in it, a lot of colors are blended with, one pigment and white or many pigments together. But if they are heavy with white in them, like chicken egg blue, this is a very heavy one. Another one that is pretty heavy is going to be my watermelon. It would be heavier than like the navy blue or army green. And even the coral is a little bit on the heavier side. So think about that. The weight is going to make a difference if you're trying to do this. Now, another way that you can go is to do like a side-by-side. And you guys have seen this quite a bit. A lot of times if I'm trying to do that, and you can get really good results with this. Let me see if I have an example. I'm pretty sure I do. Still have the pen, I think. Where did it go? Yeah, this one. So here's an example of doing it where it's like a side by side rather than a vertical stack of two colors, right? We did these guys a little while ago, and I mean, this is poured. I didn't use any mechanical, divisions or any of that kind of stuff. This was just poured with a split cup, and there's a little bit of variation here and there, but for the most part, I mean, it's like a side-by-side 50-50 blank. And so the split cup is a really good way. If you have a 3D printer, there's also, you can just buy like silicone ones on Amazon. I think if you've got a 3D printer, that's by far the best way to do this. Just print these things out. You can find, I think they call it like a acrylic pour. A lot of times is what these are listed under on the STL, 3D print website things. So that's a good one. However, you can literally just grab 2 cups and pour at the same time. That will also work. I think the split cup is probably going to be your best bet to get the best, but you can do 2 cups. Now, today what I want to do is actually try the 2 cup method, because usually I do the split cups, and you guys have seen that a lot. So I want to try it out. Now, I don't know offhand. I can't remember if I've done this in the past. In theory, it should work pretty much the same as doing a split cup. Maybe a little bit different because I'm not going to be pouring them like probably right next to each other. But you could. There's different ways to do this. If you get paper cups, I'm going to grab some cheap ones that I don't really care about just to demonstrate this. Maybe. Where are my cheap cups? They're also a little bit squishier, so that's why I'm going over here to find the cheap ones. I think they might be in here. No, that is not them. Where did I put those? Where did I put the cheapies? Oh man, I lost the cheapies. Okay, well. Huh. Okay, we're just gonna burn a couple regular cups, I think. No. Okay, we'll just do some 12 ounce cups. So there's a couple different ways you could do this. Paper cups, I would say, are the best for this because you can squish them, right? You're really not going to be squishing plastic cups. They're just going to crack, and that's not great. So plastic cups, I would say, are out. At this point, I use a lot more paper cups. I find them to be a little bit more, there's a little bit more control. Like I said, I can kind of control the flow with these. So the paper cups are pretty darn good. There's no difference in price, but the one advantage to paper cups is you don't have all these little ridges and junk, like the little logo stuff stamped. It's all pretty flat, which is going to be a little bit better for mixing and stirring. But anyway, so when you're pouring these, you could do it a couple different ways. The split cup, the flow is kind of coming side by side. So if you really wanted to, you could try to kind of mimic the split cup. It's a little bit harder to do that, like you can try and do it in like one hand, but it gets a little tough, a little bit cumbersome. It's easier just to kind of grab both of them and pour at the same time. And for the most part, I think you're going to get a pretty similar thing. And again, if you don't have a 3D printer or don't want to buy a split cup just to do this pour, I think this is going to be a pretty effective method. We will see if this works out the way that I'm claiming it will, let's say, but I think it should work. So anyway, lots of different ways to do it. Like I said, you can stack them, you can put them side by side. But again, I think the biggest thing with the verticals is the weight issue. And the big one, again, is going to be white. Anything that's got white dye, that's heavy with white dye in it, is going to be heavy. And you can usually just kind of feel, you pick, if you buy, a white, the same size of stuff, you can literally just feel like this one's heavy. You can weigh it if you really want to. Now, when it comes to mica powders, though, so this is that, again, the white thing, I'm talking about liquid pigments and dyes. So again, even with Alumilite, this is technically, Alumilite white is the dye. This is just the same thing as, it's a liquid pigment, whereas their translucent dyes are a different thing altogether. These are not heavy, just the colored ones, but the white is the same thing as like the divine pigments. It's a pigment. They're heavy. chunks and it's going to drop. Now, when you're talking about like mica powders, I would say typically, I don't know for certain. I mean, we could do tests. I could sit here and weigh, you know, a teaspoon of each color. If you really want to get kind of nitpicky about it, you could do that. But I don't think that the mica powders really have that much variability in weight. So I don't think you have to worry about that weight issue as much if you're using just powders. It's really, the main thing is if you're doing liquid pigments. But other than that, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. And like I said, you don't have to use silicone. You can just go down and get PVC pipes. Turner's Warehouse carries the kits where they've got their plugs. And their plugs, if you're going to do PVC, go to Turner's Warehouse and get these plugs. They are amazing. They are absolutely amazing. They're flat. They've got a little center punch thing, so that, you know, it gives you like, I don't know if that really matters necessarily, but it is kind of a nice little feature, but they're flat. A lot of the other plugs that you see on the market are tapered. And while they work pretty well, you get kind of a weird wrap thing, you know, like you get little resin bits that are hanging down that you got to cut off. And 3/4 inch ones work fine. When you start getting anything above 3/4 inch, you really got to watch those things for, like, they tend to literally come out of the tube. Like, you don't want to be picking up a tube like a 3-inch or, you know, whatever, 2-inch. I've literally had the thing just fall out the bottom and just resin everywhere. So the tapered plugs really aren't great. Turner's Warehouse has like all the way up to at least 4-inch, maybe 6 in these red plugs. And I would say if you've got a 6-inch pipe and you got a ton of resin on top of that thing, I wouldn't, even though that they fit and all this stuff, what I would do is put it on something else. Put it on a tray of some sort. If you need to pick it up and put it in the pressure pot, don't just rely on, oh, the plug will stay there. When you get into the really big ones, no matter which plug, you wouldn't want to, you know, you're talking a lot of resin if it's a 6-inch PVC pipe or 4. If it dumped, you're going to be really mad. Things will be thrown and words will be said. So, but with the 3/4 inch, you're usually good. But you can also just get a rack for your pipes. Turner's Warehouse also has a really good rack for pipes now. It is amazing. It holds like 50,000 pipes at once. It's all HDPE. I want to get one of those things actually, because mine is pretty junky. So anyway, that was a kind of a long speech about what's going on with this stuff. I want to roll into this. So today we're not going to do the, what I want to do is I want to have you guys throw out some colors. Anybody. We're not even going to necessarily do the, we're not going to tie the colors to super chats today. I just want to see some ideas and see what you guys think. See a bunch of ideas in the chat. What 2-color combination do you want to see? And I'm going to pick them out of, you know, whatever you guys all say, but you guys just have at it, throw out some ideas, type away. We're going to do a couple different ones. We're going to do a 6 and we're going to do a 4. I just thought I'd kind of, I don't sell these. I made them for myself, but mainly what I'm looking at is most of you are probably, if you're going to do the big boys, you're probably going to get this mold. So I thought, you know, let's do that one. But I also have one that's got 6 blanks, and I wanted to see is there any difference, and kind of share that with you guys. Probably the easiest way to go, if you're, you know, if you don't have silicone molds and all that stuff, go get some PVC pipe. Like I said, even Turner's sells pipes, but they're usually not like the 8.5 or, you know, whatever. If you go down to the Home Depot, PVC is PVC. Just grab a stick of the Schedule 40. You can cut it to whatever length you want, and then, but use the Turner's Warehouse plugs. You can get like a bag of, I think 5 or 10 or something like that, and they're pretty cheap and they work great. So just use those ones and you will be happy. So let's see what color combos you guys throw out there. Let's see here. Words will be said, I'm telling you. Many words would have been said and have been said in my shop when that happened. Yeah, thanks, Jake. Yellow and blue, that's what I want to do. I will say, so the biggest problem with yellow and blue is the liquid pigments. And again, like I said, well, I would almost say it doesn't, any yellow variant and blue. But the big thing, what I found, somebody actually wanted Chargers. So the LA Chargers is like white, blue, and yellow, their colors, but it's lighter. And I was like, okay, here's the deal. Yellow and blue tend to create green. It's like streaks. And so I just quit many years ago. I quit trying to even get the Michigan Wolverines, like the dark blue and yellow. Didn't matter what I did. It was terrible. Like terrible. Like it was blue, green, and yellow, basically. So I just threw that out because no Michigan fan wants green in their pen blank. So what I have found, though, is certain gold mica powders can work with dark blue and get, to the eye, it looks like there might be, it doesn't look green, I wouldn't say. It's like, it just kind of changes the blue. So your eye may say kind of like greenish looking, but I really wouldn't call it like green streaks, typically. I've been kind of playing around with this stuff, and I'll let you guys comment on this. I got a couple examples. I'm probably going to be adding these to my website. Gold isn't necessarily, sometimes gold isn't exactly the color that you're going for, but I mean, these are pretty good. There's like a little bit of where it like kind of makes the blue lighter. And yes, I mean, you could maybe say there's a little bit of like this green, but compared to doing liquid pigments with yellow and dark blue, I mean, this is pretty awesome, actually, especially this one. This one looks pretty darn good. I think it would pass. And if somebody had a complaint about it, I'd just refund them and say, sorry, the best I can do. And you might even get a little bit better results if you just did 2 mica powders. However, light blue and yellow doesn't work that bad. A little bit of bleed, but not really that bad. Again, it's just like all the colors are going to bleed. And like I said, when I say bleed, it's not like they're just bleh. There's a couple areas but it's more like your eye sees this kind of like lighter blue. It's not really green. It's just not dead blue or dead yellow, So it is possible to do it. It's just, I'm going to be honest, it's difficult to get really good results combining yellow and blue. Typically, I hate them though. I would rather someone already picked green. That was funny. Okay, so let me scroll up. Pink is always the answer. Okay, so hold on, I'm missing. Okay, here we go. Pink, green, yellow, and blue. Pink and red, that's cool. Pink, dark pink, and light pink. That's kind of cool. Oh, Yamagata and Jungen, that's a good combo. I like that one. That'll probably look pretty darn good. Let's see here. Pink and orange. I like that too. Copper and purple. Dude, Vinny, you got to just come here and tell me what colors to put together. You have some really good picks. Copper and purple. I like that a lot. I have one new color I wanted to try also, I think. What the heck? Did we? I don't know if we did this one. And actually, I need to get a new color. I did one on the stream, the demo, that was like wicked. It was a new eye candy that I'd never used before. So I've got this common, I don't even know how to, I'm going to let you guys read this because I don't know why eye candy puts names that nobody can even pronounce. That one is kind of an interesting purple. I think did we use this already? I don't know. I always like these interesting ones. It's kind of like it's got weird stuff going on, like kind of like beetle blue. So purple and copper. We might do that purple and then throw in some copper. I've got some antique copper from, I got penny copper also. That would be kind of neat. That would actually be kind of an interesting combo. This one's more of like a, like the, whatever, the gold nugget one where it's like more, this one might, so, you know, I was saying that your mica powders, typically you're probably not going to see a whole big difference in weight. Well, if you're doing something that's more glittery, that's going to be lighter, most likely. So that might be kind of an interesting one to try and see what we get. I'd almost rather pour this side by side, but it'd be kind of cool to do a top down on that one. Orange and blue. I got some good orange and blue. Actually, I got to pour some gator blanks today. I'm a little bit low. Your stream froze. Oh, man. We don't like that. Let's see here. Jake is just mean. Well, he does like green, so, I mean, you know. The chat was updating, but the video was frozen. That's weird. Uh-oh, I lost. Okay, there we go. Okay. So I definitely like the purple and copper. I think we're going to do that. I might even throw in something I don't think I've seen yet, personally, that might be kind of an interesting test type thing, is mixing the penny copper with some antique copper, where we're getting a little bit of, you know, we're getting mica. Do I not have a big penny or antique? Huh. Okay, I guess I don't. Let's do the overhead view. So that might be kind of an interesting thing where we get a little bit of pearl, but we get a little bit of sparkle with that. And it's going to be like a little bit more different color than either one of them, you know, singularly. So let's try that. Let's do like a 50-50 or something like that mix. Might have to kind of play with that and see what we get, but that'll be kind of cool. And then for the other one, let's see here. So pink and sparkles. Not bad. I really like that. I might switch it up a little bit. I like the Yamagata in silver. That would be a really cool looking blank. But I think, so what do you guys think about pink and silver? Kind of like that pink idea. And it's in the red realm, you know. It's a variant of red. Red and silver. That'd be kind of an interesting one. Now, one other thing to kind of keep in mind, or one other tip that I can, and I'll mention this now, and I'm going to do it when I pour them probably, especially if you're doing like a stacked 50-50. Let me switch to this view. Like I said, you really, gravity is not on our side, especially, I would also say, if you're pouring deep, you know, like 8.5-inch blanks or more, gravity is definitely not on your side. It's accelerating as you're pouring it down. Gravity's pulling on it. So one thing that I would recommend is really try to like let it run down the side. So you pour your first color in, it doesn't matter, you know, just get it in there, and you're just going to have to kind of look down in and see, you know, how far, how close am I? You're probably not going to get it perfect. You could try to, the only way to get it like very perfect is to know exactly how many grams each one of these tubes holds, and split your cups perfectly 50-50 and you know, get it out of there. So I don't even know how much these take. That might be on the P-Town website. Let me see here. A lot of times you may end up with slightly different, like a slightly over vertical mold, 3/4. Hold on a minute. I'm looking to see if he's got 3/4, 12-inch, 4 blank. Here we go. Okay, so according to the P-Town website, 75 grams per cavity on these 4s. I got to be honest, my biggest problem with trying to get this perfect is I always add extra to my, recipes. So a lot of times I don't have like a perfect 50-50 figured out anyway. So that may be a little bit difficult if you really need perfectly 50-50. One thing that I do, if you can find molds that are like a silicone mold, if you've got PVC pipes, this is actually very simple. Literally, now you got to take into account, if you're doing this, take into account, put your plug in first, and then grab yourself a ruler, and this one's not long enough, obviously, but measure, the tube however long you want it to be, and then literally draw a line on your tube, and it's pretty simple if you're using PVC pipes to get it 50-50, like that, or have the right amount of resin. A lot harder in a silicone mold, very difficult in one of these where you can't see at all inside through it. If you make your own, or if you can find some, my Gatling molds, at least for the majority of their life, eventually they kind of get, when they start getting older, they get a little bit more opaque. But one thing you can do, and I do this on some of my blanks actually, if you get yourself a really strong light and hold it up next to it, you can actually see. So you could mark on the mold and actually see. It's not perfect a lot of times, but you can get it, pretty close, and you can usually kind of see through there if you light it up enough. You'll be able to see the resin kind of filling up that tube. So there are ways to do this a little bit with silicone molds, but I usually does it need to be perfect? Usually not, anyway. So a couple little random tips there. So let's pick another color match or color set here. And yes on the pink. Barb wants the pink. Purple with gold flakes. Marquetta likes the pink. Does anybody hate the pink? I think pink and silver will be kind of cool. Let's do that. Okay, so which pink? We could go with watermelon. That would be a good test for like a heavy one. And I think, so typically, I'm trying to think if what I'm about to say is not a good thing or like wrong. I don't think you should have to worry so much if you're doing a side-by-side with the weight issue. It's really an up-down problem, not a side-to-side thing. So I don't know. I kind of like the side-by-sides with the silver and pink, actually. I like that idea. And I kind of like the top-down, like the, above and below for this group, because I'm kind of curious to see how this penny copper does with that. So let's do that. We'll do the side-by-side. We'll use my watermelon. That's a pretty good pink. And then we'll use Jungan silver, which is like literally the best silver you can get. I still have never seen a better one. It literally does what my all-time favorite, the Alumilite one, did, except it's not a pain to use, which the Alumilite one was, which you can't even get today anymore anyway. So let's do this. Resin dipstick. Yeah, you could maybe try that. I don't know. The problem is I wouldn't get too bent out of shape about it because, again, typically you're gonna kind of want to go a little bit higher on the temperature. You don't have to go crazy, especially with the vertical ones, probably not as much. The stacking, above and below, that's where I would probably go a little bit higher. The side-by-side, I don't really think that the temperature needs to change much. I've never seen a need for that. So let's see here. We're gonna do the top down just because it gives us a little bit more advantage. We're gonna use this one's a little bit shorter. I mean, we're talking like 1/2 inch. It's not a big deal, but let's do top down in this one, and then we'll do the side-by-side. The other thing is having one more tube. We're gonna have to pour pretty carefully. Doing the top down, we want to let it kind of roll down the edge. side by side, I mean, really, it's a lot easier, I would say. You can just kind of dump it. So we'll do that one. It'll give us a little bit more easy time in the having 2 more blanks to pour. So yeah, okay, this is going to be kind of fun. So we're doing 75 grams per tube. We're doing up and down. Let me get my little booklet out. Sorry, this has been kind of a wordy intro, but hopefully you guys got some tips. Like, I want to just kind of share as many little tips and tricks that I can think of doing this stuff. And happy Valentine's Day to everybody. I forgot it's the 14th. Let's see here. So we're doing, call it half and half. You can call it like 50-50. Okay, so number 1. Man, I'm already hungry. Jeez. We're doing... top and bottom, we're doing the P-Town 4 tall. And we're using Luminite Clear Slow. We're going to need 75 times 4, plus a little extra probably. Is that right? 75 times. Yeah, okay, yeah, that is right. So we need 300 grams. I'm going to mix it in a separate cup and then pour it into my 2 pouring cups. So I'm going to mix up a little bit more because there's going to be some left over in the cup. So we're going to do 155 times 2. And then we're going with, let's see here. So just we're doing even split, 150 and 150 when we pour it. And then we're doing, I don't even know how to say this. I'm just going to call it K purple. K purple eye candy. And let's see, 150, we're going to do I'm curious, so we're doing bespoke blanks. I'm going to kind of reduce the amount of powder that we're putting in. I'm going to try a 1/4 teaspoon of the purple, and then we're going to do like antique copper and penny copper mixed together. We're going to do a 1/4 teaspoon of penny copper and an 1/8 teaspoon of antique copper. Now I think I'm going to pour at, doing top down. So I'm going to pour this at, I want to see what one. Now, one other thing to keep in mind, the higher the temperature, the thicker that you're waiting for the resin to before you pour it, typically the thicker it is, the more that's going to stay in your cup also. If you pour it out right away, you can usually get a lot more of the resin out. So in this case, I actually think I want to add a little bit more resin. I'm going to do 310 total. We're going to do 155 of each of the cups, and then we're going to mix up 160 in the original cup. So I'm just adding a little extra because we're going to go for a little bit higher temp. I'm going to go for 105 degrees and 68. And that should be plenty, but it is going to be fairly thick by then. And then number 2 is going to be side by side, hand poured. So again, I know that with a split cup, I know what to expect. You're going to get a pretty good division. And the one thing, if you do decide to do a side by side and use a split cup, the one thing about it is, and even when I'm doing it today, by hand, you really want to keep this. You don't want to be moving this thing around. You really want to hold this in one position, and you're going to get the best results. So just hold it and be kind of slow. You don't need to pour a bunch, and it will just fill up side by side. If you're moving it around and doing stuff, you're going to get kind of all kind of crazy. Even today when I'm doing this by hand, same thing. I don't want to be wiggling this thing all over the place because it's not going to be side by side. I want to really try to do my best to keep these things like pretty much in one position over the hole, so it goes down and like centered on, you know, with both cups. That should give us the best option. Now, like I said, I don't know that I've done this really offhand. I can't remember actually doing this. I know it just seemed logical to just use a split cup, you know, like you don't have to worry about two different things happening, but I want to see how this works doing it by hand. So we're doing the slow, and then, but again, for the side-by-side, you don't really need to move around with the temperature. It's not that big of a deal. Stacking is harder than doing side-by-side to keep it from moving around. And even if you do everything perfect, stacking them, a lot of times there's going to be some variability. You got gravity. It's not going to be like this perfect shelf of division, which I kind of like. It's gonna, there should be some variation throughout it, but the majority of the bottom and the majority of the top should be pretty much one color. All right, so probably just do 100 degrees or so. And then let's see, that one holds. That one doesn't matter as much. I'm going to do my normal amount, which is like 480. 240 times 2, is that right? Double check. Gotta double check the math. 245 times 2. 4, is that right? 480? Yeah. Let me just double check something real quick here. I'm gonna look. These. When was the last? I gotta look at my notes real quick here. This is why I keep notes, because I can't keep everything in my head. Huh. There we go. Yeah, 480. Okay. 245. Just didn't sound right, you know? 245, and then we're going to do 240, 240. That should be a little extra. So for that one, we're going to do Jungin Silver. So for anybody that doesn't know what that is, Jungin. It's like, if you're doing silver, that is the best. And one of the greatest things about this, you could use like half as much powder as you usually do and get, it's like a very opaque powder too. So you can use a lot less. Like honestly, most people could probably get away with just buying the small one. I've had this for a long time and I use it I use that in some of my store blanks, and I don't even think I've used half of this thing yet. So, and then we're going to do watermelon. Let's see, Jungin 240. Probably, I'm going to try a 1/4 teaspoon. That's like nothing in 240 grams. I just want to see what that looks like. And then we'll do watermelon. Probably only need like, yeah, I'm going to put like, I'm going to start with half a gram. We're going to do, again, I was saying that the watermelon. Now, the other thing is, if you've got a color that's got a lot of white in it, it's usually going to be more opaque. Takes less to make it opaque. And again, we're making bespoke blanks. I don't really care about the opacity so much. Definitely not anywhere near as much concerned about opacity for bespoke blanks as I am for like the standard length blanks that typically you're going to put a tube in. It's just, then you got to, either paint the tube, paint the blank, there's all that junk. I'd rather just not worry about it I don't have to worry about it with bespoke blanks, because even if there's some see-through, that's just cool. Like, I like that actually, a lot of people do. So, Yeah, Daniel, I'm telling you, like the first, someone was like, "Oh, there's junk in silver." I was complaining about there's not really very good silvers, and I pulled one out. So like there was, I don't even know, Alumilite sold one way back in the day. That's so they had these metallic whatever colors, and they still sell, I think, copper maybe. The problem is it's like a weird, it's not a normal mica powder. It's like very light. Like literally this is one where it like floats sort of. It's weird. And it was just not the greatest, but it was still the best silver that I had found. Like it made it more like that metallic silver looking stuff. But it was a pain to use. You really had to wait even longer than normal. Otherwise it kind of did weird stuff in there. And I didn't love it. And most of the other ones, I would say the best, like honestly, one of the best that I had found was the silver gray from P-Town. Was reasonably good, but they're like gray. You know, it's not really silver. There's black in it, kind of. And so the Jungin, though, good God. I tried that out. I mean, this stuff is everything you ever wanted in a silver, like a metallic silver. It's great. Love it. I forget, Mark might have been, was it you, Mark? Somebody pointed out, and I was like, oh, tried it, and I was like, yes. This is how you do it. Okay, so let's make some resin and quit talking. So we're doing, not that one, we're doing this one. And let's see here. So I'm going to have 155 grams in 2 cups. 155. I'm going to use these 16-ounce paper cups for this. Yeah, there isn't exactly a gold that I found that's like super metallic gold. Well, yeah. What's this one? Yeah, not really. Oh, oops. I'm losing my samples, guys. Samples flying everywhere. Yeah, they're more like pearly. Kinda. I don't know. Like I said, and I mean, Jungin's not, it's not like it looks like metal. You know, okay, you're really not going to get that. But it's definitely the best. Like the light, and part of it, it just has to do with the lightness. It's like the lightest silver that it's as close to metallic as you're going to get. Well, as I've found anyway, so far. What are we doing here? I can't even read my notes. 160, is that what that is? 310. Hold on a minute. Okay, yeah, 160 times 2. Okay. 160. And I'm using Alumilite Clear Slow. A little over, that's okay. 161. Let's see here. Emil! Longhorn. Oh man, we had a Longhorn back in Vegas for a while. No, I'm thinking Lone Star. Longhorn. I don't know. I think I'm thinking Lone Star. $161. Gotta focus a little bit here. Always gotta focus when you're measuring. Oh, I'm a little over. It's not that big of a deal. I'd rather not be that far over with the B, but I find with Alumilite Clear Slow, I typically go a little bit over, and this is the only resin I do this with. I usually go like a gram over anyway. Couples, not really going to hurt anything. It's not going to make any difference, but you're better off doing equal, amounts in most cases, or whatever the directions tell you to do. If you're a gram or so over with Alumilite Clear Slow, not a big deal, as long as it's the B side. If you're going to be over with B. That's the slogan. There's 110 versus white sinks, I know. 8-inch round blanks. Using just the Jungin. 8-inch round. That would be a good, you know, like, yeah, you could just use that stuff alone. Jungin it up. All right, so I've mixed this pretty well, I'd say. Scraping the bottom and the sides of the cup. Now I need 155 in each one of these guys. I am going to get that pretty close. I might go like 155.5 or 7, 8. Not a big deal. And this is the top down one. That's okay. Yeah. All right, so you guys can see what's going on. We're gonna do, let's see, what did I write down? 1/4 teaspoon of this purple one. So a lot of times it doesn't really matter how, you know, you don't need to go get a teaspoon set for mica powders typically, but if you are trying to get a specific opacity, then it can help. Having, you know, very accurate measurements instead of just, I don't know, it's a couple scoops. That's the only reason I would recommend that. If you need that kind of accuracy, then you know, you can repeat it. And again, but you also need to write down, you know, how much resin was in this cup with 1/4 teaspoon of K purple. You need to be very accurate if you're trying to slightly adjust things and get a very specific look. If you're not really that worried about it, then it doesn't matter, but it's not going to be repeatable. Like exactly repeatable. So it just depends on how anal you need to be about, you know, what you're doing. All right, I need to make sure that I do this right. So 1/8 teaspoon of antique copper, that's what we got here. Probably don't even need that much. Like this is still probably going to be fairly, you know, opaque. And then I'm going to put 1/4 teaspoon. Usually the penny copper and like the 14 karat nugget or whatever it is, those ones that are more like glitter, they usually take more. There's going to be little gaps basically, where you can kind of see through more. And we'll do 1/4 teaspoon of the glittery one. And we'll see what we get. I don't know. Hopefully this turns out kind of cool. Has anybody done this, mixing the penny copper and antique copper or some other copper? Like a mica powder copper and the more glittery copper? I'm really excited to see this purple here. Let's see what this purple looks like. Ooh. See, it's like beetle blue, but it turns purple. Like the side of the cup is like almost blue. But it doesn't turn out that way in the blanks, I find. Not typically, anyway. So that's definitely like see-through. It's almost like... It almost looks like an interference purple. It's weird. I wonder what would happen if you put this next to black. So that's going to be, you know, fairly transparent. Like that's really not a lot, but I think it's gonna be cool looking in this blank. And then this one should be more opaque, which I think also will kind of be kind of cool looking. Like if you got one color that is more opaque. Now, I guess technically we're not swirling these. Like I got to remember what we're doing here. I think this would be a really neat swirl pattern. And so what I was saying is if you've got something that's a little bit more, well, that one's pretty somewhat, this is going to be kind of see-through. But here's the color of that. It's nice. You've got a little bit, I think we need another eighth. I want to do another eighth of the antique. I want to get a little bit more pearl in there. So we're going to do it's basically now we're just doing a 50-50 split. Come on, 50-50 it. There we go. I want this to be a little bit more pearl with a little bit of sparkle. That's what I'm going for on this. There we go. I like that a little bit better. It's still got, certain areas, it's a little bit more on the see-through side, but it's got a little bit more of the pearl that I wanted. Okay, we are rocking, guys. We are rocking. Let's see, Longhorn is what? Longhorn. What is Longhorn? It sounds so familiar. Longhorn. Come on. Close. Okay. Did you guys get a look at this K purple? I mean, it's really, I don't know. This is going to be a really neat looking thing, I think. Hopefully. I don't know. I mean, I never go into it thinking like, I really hope this sucks. It's just not something I usually do. Anybody watching the Olympics? Oh man, I love the Olympics. There's so many really interesting sports that you never really, I don't know, I don't really watch ever. I'm a snowboarder and I still don't even really watch like snowboarding competitions ever. So it's always a treat to get to see some snowboarding, and I love the skiing competitions and all that kind of good stuff. Bobsled is one of my favorites. What's your favorite Olympic color? Or color. Competition sport thing, and you can do whichever one you want, summer or winter. We're gonna add this as a question. In the past I've done some Olympics blanks which have been pretty fun. I was like not this year. Olympic sport. There's the Q&A, guys. That's for you. I want to know. Get out of there. Where'd my chat go? What is happening here? Oh God, what's happening right now? I lost the chat. What the heck? Live chat. There it is. It's like Outback. Okay. Yeah, so there was something called Lone Star that was also the same thing. That's what I'm thinking of, I think. Speed skating is pretty cool. Hockey, yeah. Curling. I like curling, but I'm also like, I like some of the more adventure sports better, personally. But it is pretty interesting. The one that I'm a little bit like, don't really see the point is have you guys seen the doubles luge? That just looks uncomfortable. Like I'm not getting that one. I'm sorry. I don't think that needed to be added to the roster of Olympic sports. Just one person is laying on top of the other. Like, and I don't really, Gretchen and I were like, so does the bottom person do anything really? They're just kind of laying there. I don't know. Doesn't look comfortable, like whatsoever. Very uncomfortable. I mean, it's kind of a feat that they make it down, I guess, but I don't think it's necessary. One that I just saw today was dual moguls. That was cool. That's a new one. Where they're like racing, kind of racing each other, but it's also they get points on like style and like execution, technique, whatever. So, ice skating, downhill, and snowboard, yeah. Curling, luge, and ski. All of it. I know it's kind of hard. Like even some of the ones like, I'm not like super interested in curling, but it's fun to watch. Like, and I like the Olympics because in this country, in the US, I mean, a lot of those sports, like nobody really pays attention to, honestly. I mean, everybody's looking at like soccer, football, baseball, and basketball. Like, that's kind of the majority of stuff that's going on, like that people really pay attention to. In this country, I find, at least most of the people I know, but a lot of European countries and across the world, like a lot of the skiing events, the cycling, and like there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot more focus on some of the events that we're like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that was a sport in the U.S. because we just don't really get a lot of access. You know, it's not. Most people aren't really following it or talking about it here. So it's pretty cool. Like every 4 years, you get to see some of this stuff. Like I don't follow track and field, you know, ever. So it's pretty cool in the Summer Olympics to see those events. So I'm at 94 degrees. So in this case, let's see. I think what I'm going to do, here's my strategy on this. I think I'm going to go for the more opaque one first. That just seems to kind of make sense. I don't know. That way, you know, the more transparent one, we should get less of like, even if it does kind of bleed through, it's probably going to be less noticeable, maybe. Whereas if you pour it in something transparent and then pour something like pretty opaque on top of it, it'll be pretty noticeable where those two are like mixing. Oh yeah, the training center, that's cool. Ski jump, yeah. Yeah, half pipe is pretty awesome. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the final this year, last night. I mean, it was to the point where I had no clue. Like I can't be like, oh yeah, that's like a backside 10, 20, 30. I don't know all these tricks anyway, necessarily. Stale fish grab, you know, rodeo. I can't spot the trick. I know what a method is. But these guys are throwing down tricks like you can't even count the amount of revolutions that these people are doing. It's like nuts. Like how I don't even know how the announcers are following it. And like the level of difficulty that everybody did in the finals was just ridiculous. It was almost like it was so crazy that you just got like things that like probably like just a year ago were like pretty high level. We're just like, oh yeah, and they did this too. All right, so I'm going to pour this in now. I'm not at my temperature yet, but I don't need to wait forever to pour the copper in, or, you know, the first color. So I'm just going to look in there. Let's see here. So it's a little bit low. And I don't, oh, that one, I went a little high on that one. Like I said, it's a little bit difficult to get this like 50-50 in a silicone mold. I don't think it matters, you know. I don't care on this batch of blanks personally. But just to let you know, it is a little bit difficult to get this to be like, and we're at 105 on this one. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of pour it lightly, and I'm pouring kind of down the edge, and then kind of eventually you can pour a little bit more, but you do want to pour it carefully if you're going for like this kind of 50-50 split. But it definitely helps to kind of roll it down the edge. But you have to be careful doing this because you don't want to be so slow pouring this that your resin starts setting up. You know, you're already kind of setting back the time, you know, we're pouring at a higher temperature off the bat, then you're pouring it slowly. So that's why, you know, you don't want to be, I don't know that you would really want to be doing this with two of these molds. I'm pretty sure that's not really going to work too well. Even doing the 6 blank mold that we're going to do on the next one, I wouldn't love it. I don't want to be having to do 2 more of these blanks, pouring it super slowly like this. Okay, now that wasn't a problem. I mean, the resin's still liquid, but I mean, it's significantly thick. You know, it's definitely thick. We still have got plenty of time. I'm not worried, but Again, just take into account all of the things that I just said, and make sure that you've got plenty of time. Don't overdo it, especially like if you've never done this before, definitely don't push the limits on the first try. And another thing you could do, even if you've got one of those P-Town, if you're doing like bespoke blanks, well, whatever blanks it doesn't really matter what length or whatever the mold is. You can always, just to kind of get an idea of what to expect, you can always just pull out a PVC pipe or two and pour a couple blanks. That way the risk or whatever, the possible failure and like waste of resin is significantly decreased, right? You don't have to do a 6 or a 4 or, and if you have like a 4 or 6 blank mold, you don't necessarily have to fill every cavity in that mold. You could just pour one, or you could just, pull out one PVC pipe. And I think one advantage to doing like one PVC pipe, especially if you've got a clear PVC pipe, is you can kind of see what's going on a little bit more. Also, you'll get a little bit more feedback and like understanding of like realistically, I couldn't see inside that mold. I don't know what happened. We're gonna have to wait and see what the results are, right? You'll have a little bit more information if you've got a clear PVC pipe, I think. And so if you want to try this out sometime, just to kind of get your bearings, see what's going on, pull out one PVC pipe and do it that way. See if that works. I do find it's a little bit harder to do like one, a much smaller amount of resin. Things are going to change a little bit the more resin you're pouring at once, but 1 or 2 PVC pipes, whatever, not a bad way to try it out. Just make sure you've kind of got things go the way that you think, the way you thought they were going to go, without having to waste a bunch of resin if it doesn't go the way you wanted it to go. All right, so let's see here. Olympic City, USA. One of the cool things up in Tahoe, there's Palisades, was the site of, I don't know what year it was, but the Olympics, so that's kind of cool. The way that winters are going these days, I don't think there's any way that we could have an Olympics in Tahoe. We never get any snow. It's ridiculous. Track, gymnastics, and swimming. Yeah, those are all good. No, don't ruin it. I didn't see the quad god. Don't ruin it. I don't care that much. Don't tell Gretchen though. Yeah, I love the luge. I like the bobsled. Out of all the sliding events, I like the bobsled for sure. The most, I would say. But I like all of them. I think I can just imagine that, where that came from. People were just sledding. Like all of those sliding events, they were literally just, it started with people just like sledding, which I love. I love that idea. And of course, like the skiing, the like biathlon and like the cross country events and stuff, I'm not as excited about typically, but because I don't really cross country ski, I think it's enjoyable, but it's a little bit, longer, less like that action packed stuff with your like downhill and all those types of things. But I do enjoy that. I like the biathlon. I think that one's a really interesting one. Because like, I've never tried that obviously, but I can just imagine, I mean, like you're doing this high cardio intensity sport, outputting so much power, and then you got to like calm yourself and like shoot without, I don't know. It just seems like you'd have like muscle pump going on and all this kind of stuff. Your heart's racing, then you got to shoot something. I'd be like, oh, didn't even hit the target. Whoops. Everybody stand clear. Zach's up to shoot after cross-country skiing up the hill. Okay, so number 2. So this one's going to be a side-by-side. This one's, I would say, generally, it's a much easier way to do it. You know, like we don't have to worry about pouring all super carefully down the side, you know, and worrying about gravity on this one. The only thing is we just need to kind of lock our hands in and don't be moving too much around in the hole. But even, I mean, and you don't have to be like perfect, you know, don't like tense up and get like, oh my God, this is crazy. I'm just saying, you know, try not to let the cups move a whole lot. You're still going to get that kind of side by side, I think. Now, again, I can't recall doing it like this with 2 cups. Definitely the split cup works. If you can kind of maintain a fairly steady hand, you get a pretty side-by-side thing. But you do have to wait for the temperature. You know, you definitely want it to get to a certain point. If you pour too early, there's going to be a lot more where it can kind of mix together if it's a little bit too thin. But I don't think that it's going to need to be radically different. Maybe a couple degrees higher than you normally pour for color swirls and stuff. One of the other things is, depending on how you do your like a normal pour, if you're doing multiple colors, you know, the more colors you've got, you know, if you do it like me where you're picking up a cup, dumping them in and then setting it down, and then picking up another cup, dumping it in and setting it down. If you've got a lot of those, and there's a lot of time going on. If you're doing that kind of like, you know, 1 cup at a time pouring for swirls. In this case, you've got a lot more time, really, because you can start at a higher temperature, and realistically, you're probably going to end at the same time as doing that single cup 1 at a time thing. The ending temperature of the resin or thickness of it is probably going to be the same, because you're really just picking it. You're not having to pick up and set down and do all this other stuff. You're just dumping it in and holding it there. So it works pretty fast. The pour goes a lot faster doing it that way. So you've got time to increase that temperature. It shouldn't feel like I've got a lot less time. It's probably going to be the same amount of time, even if you increase the temperature by, you know, 5, maybe even 10 degrees possibly. So let's get our cups out. I think I don't know. I said that I'd probably stick with the same temperature that I normally pour like color swirls at. I'm going to take that back. Again, because you've got more time, there's no reason to not go a little higher with the starting, you know, pour temperature. So that seemed to work pretty well on the half and half. I'm going to do 105 again. Originally I had it set at like 100. Let's do 105. And just you know, so everybody knows, now the thing is saying 67, but typically my shop is about 68 degrees in the winter, and that's what around 67. Oh, there it went back to 68. I knew it was trying to play with me. So 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I'm pouring the resin, you know, with temperature at 105. So just, you know, that might help you guys as like a starting point. But, you know, if your shop temperature is significantly different than mine, like, I mean, and I would say even 5 degrees different, then you might need to make some slight adjustments to things. 5 degrees can make can make a difference for sure. Let's see here. So we need one. Where am I at? What am I? I'm looking at the wrong thing. 245. So hopefully these will turn out cool. I don't know. I think we picked pretty good colors. Thank you guys for the good suggestions. I mean, honestly, I actually liked all of them. A couple stood out though. That was how I picked them. That's okay, Randy. Okay, so what was it, 245? What was it, about 246 on that last one? I'm gonna go to 247 or so. A little bit up there. There we go. All right. And again, I like to stir, mix this up in one cup and then dump these off. I think, and I don't, I could technically use the mixing cup. Some of you might be going like, well, why do you always set the cup? Why don't you just use the cup as one of the colors? In this case, I don't want to use that. It's much easier to have like the same cup if you're doing something where it takes dexterity. I think that it could throw you off. Maybe with practice, or if you just don't think about it, it wouldn't matter as much. But I think, having that wider rim, it's going to be a little harder to get like the same flow out if you've got two totally different cups. So I would recommend, typically, in this specific case, it makes a lot of sense to just dump it all out into two of the same cups. But even if I wasn't doing that, if I was just picking up all the cups, a lot of times I still kind of default to using the mix cup and then putting it aside, dumping it all out into different cups. One thing that can happen also, this is a pretty big cup, and if I was doing even just like 3 even amounts or whatever, 2 even amounts probably with a good amount of resin probably wouldn't affect this as much. But when you start getting to like 3, 4, the problem is then you're starting to get like not much resin left in this cup, and it's like spread out further than a smaller cup would have been. And so that cup is probably going to heat up slower. The temperature is going to rise slower because the resin's kind of spread out more. So the more it's kind of clumped into a ball, the faster it heats up typically. So that's another reason to kind of use like the same amount of, the same cup and try and keep things fairly similar across the board. But the big thing that I don't really like doing is I'm mixing this up, and even though this is a mixing cup that's totally flat and I got everything going for me, there still could be some unmixed parts floating around in there, like just part B or part A. And by dumping it into 2 brand new cups, empty cups, and then adding, your pigments and then stirring it up again, the likelihood that you've got any unmixed resin at all in your mixture is like 0. Like it's probably just not going to happen at that point. But I've definitely seen when I've used the mixing cup as one of the pouring cups, depending on circumstances, situations, where are we at here? 240. I've run into issues where there's been like little, and you'll know when there's a little bit of unmixed resin in your blank. You'll most likely get, especially if you're using liquid pigments, you'll get, I went way over on that one. That's okay. You'll get some little dye blobs. That's another reason why sometimes, there may be like like an air pocket, quote unquote, or whatever, a defect in the blank. That may be an uncured resin, and it's usually kind of liquidy. It's wet. That is an indication that you've got unmixed resin somehow, and you need to do a better job of mixing the part A and part B together. Dyes, definitely. That's not, obviously you're not going to notice so much with mica powders, but what happens is, with the dyes, the liquid pigments, you literally, and it can be like a mess. Like you end up getting dye all over the place when you cut into it, on the tool, on your hands, on the lathe. It's not good. So that you know, if you ever experience that, whether it's your blanks or some that you bought, that's probably what happened. And you know, and that is like a material defect. Like I would, if somebody contacted me and said I had like dye coming out of the blank, I would be like, let me refund that and get you another one, kind of thing. Either or, one of the two. But if they're your own blanks, that's an indication you need to do that. So that's another reason why I do that, especially with my blanks on my website. So let's see, we're doing an quarter teaspoon, did I say? Quarter teaspoon of Jungen. And again, you really don't need a lot of this Jungen. I mean, I probably could have put an 1/8 teaspoon in this one. I'm always like blown away at how well it gets opaque. How little it takes to get very opaque. Yeah, honestly, I could have used an 1/8. Look at that. I could have used, I mean, it's like totally opaque. Could have used an 1/8. But look at that color. Like, I mean, that is like silver. That is the best looking silver. Now in the blank, you know, you can see in the cup, there are some little dark areas. You know, micas kind of tend to have those little slightly darker areas, slightly lighter. But out of all the silvers that I've found, or I mean, that I've used, it is by far like the lightest color and the closest to like silver that I've seen. Okay, so we'll put our Jungen back, and then we'll do some watermelon. I'm going to put in not much. I'm going to put a 1/2 gram in. And I think that might do it. Let's see. We're going for kind of the lighter. We're going lighter here. Let's see. Is that 16? Yeah. But I think that's going to be plenty. Pink and silver. Good combo. Yeah, the second, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I didn't used to for a long time. And I think that, I don't know, one thing I've also found is for some reason in the summer, it seems to be more of a problem where you might get like a weird dye thing. Because when I was doing all those batches of testing, sometimes I would just be like, I'm not going to waste another cup because I don't care. I'm not selling these or doing anything. But I would turn into it and there'd be dye. And I was like, okay, that's great. So it's kind of crazy. Now this is a little bit on the see-through side here. But that's like, I mean, that's not even a 0.5%. Let's see. 240 times, well, 0.15 divided by 240. Yeah, that's like not much at all. 240 times. Yeah, 0.5% would be 1 gram. I think I'm going to go up to a 0.5%. That's definitely plenty at that point, I think. So I'm going to add 0.5 more. Oh, we're there. 1.2 actually is going to be exactly 0.5%. But I think 1 gram is plenty. I think I think it would have just looked a little washed out. This one looks a little bit better the more vibrant it gets. That's a pretty nice looking pink. This is still a little bit on the translucent side, it looks like. It could be. Just a little bit. But that's fine. I'm not too worried about that. What do you guys think of this color combo? It's pretty good looking, I think. That'll look pretty good next to each other. Let's see here. Vinny's out. Have a good one, Vinny. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of another. So one thing that I wasn't super thrilled with. So they added going back to the Olympics, guys, while we're waiting for this resin to reach temp. One thing that I was a little disappointed with is they added one called Ski Mountaineering. And I haven't seen it actually done, but I saw something where they kind of showed what it was, and that doesn't look like ski mountaineering to me at all. Ski mountaineering is like ice axe climbing a K2 with snow. Like, and they're just kind of like skinning a little bit up a hill, and I don't know. I gotta see the competition, I guess, and actually see what's going on. But that one didn't seem to be very impressive to me. I mean, it's fine, but it was like cross country, but you actually have like skis on instead of like the thin ones. So there's a little bit of downhill portion to it, but that's not really what mountaineering is. I'm hoping that, is anybody familiar with free ride skiing, snowboarding? That's like where you're like out in the boonies, like going down like cliffs and stuff. I think that they're trying to add that maybe to France, the France Winter Olympics, and that would be a way more. That's a really one. I watched the Freeride World Tour, and that is a really exciting competition. These guys are like on the side of a mountain, just cliffs and crazy, and they're doing like backflips and stuff off this. Like it's so steep and rocky, like. And I think that they actually have to climb the mountain to get up to the start gate. Like it's like, that is like actual mountaineering, kind of, sort of. So I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts if you saw that. Wasn't super thrilled with it. All right, so we're waiting for 105. And again, like I could probably pour right now, but it's always good to wait a little bit more when you're trying to do these kind of combining things. And in this case, it's gonna go pretty quick once we start pouring. It's definitely gonna be quicker than me picking one cup up and doing this and then picking another. We're gonna end at the same time most likely, even though I started a little bit later. So we're at 97. Kind of interesting to see the difference in temps here. 96, pretty close. Not bad. Go, pink! Looks like I need to raise my camera up just a little bit. Kind of messing around with it earlier today. Hopefully I won't turn it off or anything. Do anything weird. There we go. That's better. I like that better. Right there. Okay, we're probably there now. What do you think? 101, we're not there yet? Well, it's getting pretty thick. Thick and chunky. Like I said, not to worry though. Still be okay. Should have plenty of time. 102 or so we're at now. Man. There we go, 102.5. I'm gonna get, now, you need to get your sticks out of here. You're not gonna, it ain't gonna work so well if you don't. So we got that one, and then this one I think is running a little bit hotter, so I'm actually gonna use that one anyway for my starting temp. We're at 104. That ought to be good enough. I'm gonna pull my stick out. I usually, when I'm doing this and I need to pull the stick out, I usually do that because I figure it probably is going to take me about a degree of timing. Oh, one other thing that I also need to do is turn this sideways. So we're going to do like this. Oh, I don't know how well this is working. I don't think I'm doing a very good job here. I think the split cup might be a better way to go. The top part looks good, but it felt like it was kind of going all over the place down there in the bottom. I'm getting the nozzles a little bit closer together on this round. I think that might help keep the stream kind of straight. As you can see, I'm not even keeping things, like I'm moving around a little bit. So I'm, you know, when I was saying that, you don't want to be all over the place with it. And I would say it's probably a little bit easier to do the shorter ones of this. You know, the taller the mold is, the more room there is for it to like kind of wiggle around as it's going down. Oh. I think these are going to be a pretty cool cut. So, you know, obviously we're going for like a side-by-side two, whoa, hands get a little tired of holding up the cups. We're going for the side-by-side thing, but if that doesn't actually work out exactly, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be too upset. I think it's still going to look pretty darn cool. I'm guessing that we're getting, if there's going to be deviation where it's like not half and half, I would imagine that the beginning of the pour is going to be more susceptible to like more of that mixing together kind of thing. It seems like I'm getting pretty good results at the top where it's pretty split, separated. My wrists are getting a little bit tired, I got to be honest. Kind of doing weird things. So I would recommend, like if you're really going for that side-by-side thing, I really think that you're better off finding a split cup to do it side by side. I think it's so much easier. Like that was not particularly awesome, fun, like holding your wrist like that for that long. I didn't love it. It's just way easier with a split cup. Like you're just not, your wrists really aren't stressed. You're really not having to, it's much easier to control, let's say. So if you've got access to a 3D printer, that's the easy route. But again, you don't have to have a 3D printer to get those split cups. I mean, technically you could, find somebody that would pay them. There's like online services that'll, do whatever, but you can just buy like silicone split cups online. Now, I'm finding that with the Alumilite Clear Slow, if I spin, we poured some resin in there. I'm finding it kind of curls over, so we're going to dump this one because I don't have another mold ready. I kind of need to get like a double mount for my faux burl molds and go back and forth. It can do some weird stuff on the inside of that faux burl mold if I do them like back to back. Now, if I just waited, one more round, it'd be locked in place completely and not move at all. It's just because it's on an angle and it's still fairly soft. Takes, with the Alumilite Clear regular, it is like stiffening up in plenty of time. In that 20 minutes, it's pretty much or so that it takes me to get another batch going. The regular version is hardened up enough. The slow is still just a little bit loose and it can kind of roll around in there. I don't really like that. So I'm gonna have to I might need to come up with like a 3D printed little rack thing that holds two of those little faux burl molds. Okay, so, whew. Yeah. Wipe those guys off. All right. So, like I said, I think in the end, I think for most people, you're going to be better off doing the side-by-side. Just grab a split cup. It's much easier to kind of hold that in place. It is a little bit harder if you're doing like 6 blanks like I did. 4 is easier, and then the shorter ones, like that goes pretty quick. And it's much easier to get. You're almost like cutting it in half how far down it's going. And the thing is, for you to hit the exact middle of the bottom of an 8.5 inch, 3/4 inch diameter tube is going to be pretty tough. And that's why I think that there's probably going to be a lot more variation on the bottom, and it'll probably start getting to be like an even double line the higher you go on that thing. But I think that either way, the split cup's going to make things just a bit easier for most people if you can, either print one or find one. I'm going to go look. I'm pretty sure that I've seen some on Amazon. I want to see if split cup. That didn't. Yeah, for pour. Let's see if like paint. I think a lot of times they put it under like paint pour. There we go. Split cups with handle for paint pouring. Non-stick reusable. 17 ounce. This looks reasonable right here. Let's Resin is another brand that's got a bunch of them. Let's see what they got. Here's one for $10. There's plenty. If you look up paint pour split cup, that one's got a nice handle. Do these all have handles? What do we got for Let's Resin? Have a handle? That doesn't look like it has a handle. I gotta be honest, this one with a handle looks pretty nice. It's a little bit more expensive, and you only get like 2. There's one with a double and a triple. But I don't know. This thing's actually got a handle. Let me hold on a minute. Let me go back and look at. There was quite a few of them. Yeah, most of them don't have handles. That would not be fun. Well, I guess I don't use a handle either. The only issue, so I'm sorry, I'm thinking about things. The problem is, what I like about the 3D printed ones, they're hard, right? Like I can grip this thing, it's not squishing and doing weird stuff. The one problem with the silicone versions, they're gonna like squish around, even if it had a handle on it and all this stuff. I had like, you can imagine, right? Like I have here we go. Here, yeah, so here's some examples. And a lot of people use silicone cups for like mixing. And I tried it and I was like, no, just don't. Give me a rigid cup. Because the problem is they just squish, you can imagine. I just want to show you. If you've got a split in this and then you're squishing it, your nozzle is going to be going all over the place. So I don't know. I haven't tried one of these ones that are supposedly for resin pouring, but just be warned, if you pay for one of these silicone ones, I don't know, your results may vary a bit compared to like the rigid ones. You may be able to actually put that in some other vessel that's rigid. That might help. I don't know, I don't know if this would work, but you may be able to like sculpt something that's got a little bit of rigidity to it, so it's not just folding over on you. If you do get a silicone one, I don't know. Has anybody done a split pour thing with any of these things? So in that case, if you're going to put it in something else, I definitely wouldn't recommend getting one with a handle. I just can't imagine that thing stays together. I don't know. This handle thickened, it says. I don't know. I'm just gonna drop a link to this one with a handle. I don't necessarily recommend it, but you can kind of look around. It'll probably, Amazon will, if you go to Amazon, it'll probably give you like other recommendations and stuff, similar things. So there's a link that is an affiliate link. They get wonky when you pour. Yeah. Cups the handle a little stiffer. Okay. Still suck. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think if you're really trying to get like what we were trying to do, I think in most cases it's probably not a big deal necessarily if you get the silicone ones. I just don't know of anybody offhand where you can just off the shelf buy a split cup 3D printed one. You can go to, well, if you go and look, actually I take it back. There is a way to do that. So like the folks, many times the places that you can get the files to download and print on your own printer, a lot of times those people will actually print it for you for a price, depending on where you find the files. That might be a way to do it. The other way is you can grab that free file, or whatever, downloadable, and then you can take it to, there's like 3D printing services online. I'm going to be honest, it's not going to be cheap to do it this way, but 3D, I can't think of the names of them. 3D printing on demand, let's say. You could probably go to like Fiverr. So Xometry, Xometry, Shapeways, Craft Cloud, JLC 3DP. There's PCBWay, I guess, maybe does it too. So, just look up 3D printing on demand or something like that. Stratasys, Sculptio. There's lots of these things. And so you can pay some other company. Problem is a lot of times they're using this isn't like many of those are not like some dude in a, basement. They're using like professional 3D printing machines and all this stuff, which you're probably going to get pretty good results, but that's a little overkill. Now, the other way to do this is if you've got a maker space around near you, guaranteed they will help you out. Somebody down there will get you going on that. The other way is if you've got a library, and a lot of libraries, public libraries these days, a lot of times have 3D printing services. So you could just have someone in, I'm sure whoever's in there will help you. You don't have to go in there and use it. They'll do it for you. And it's probably free. I'm guessing if you have a library card. If not, it would be super cheap kind of thing. So Darren's got the 2, 3, 4, 5 low capacities. Yeah. Multiple. Don't fill it all the way. Squeeze it. And it'll squish and overflow. Yeah. Slab molds. Yeah, that's a good idea. Thingiverse. Yeah. So that's, I think, probably where I got mine. I don't know offhand. But I didn't make these things. It was probably actually, probably Thingiverse is probably where I got it. I think I just looked at same thing. I think I just looked up, Googled like paint pour split cup, 3D print file or .stl or something, something like that. So anyway, let's see, Lathe Rookie. Yeah, that was another way you can do it. You can, so Lathe Rookie was talking about like taping the cups or whatever. You can literally just grab them and squish them together. One of the problems is it kind of can depend on the cup that you have, and that's why I was actually trying to find the cheaper ones. I like these for what I do. For most pours, these have a very thick round edge, and what I find is it doesn't like dribble down the edge of it as much. So you can squish it and do all that stuff, and it's just a little bit, and it's a little bit more rigid. But I like the ones that are a little bit bulkier on this like rim. But a lot of cups don't have that. Like you can find ones that are a little bit less of this like kind of rim thing, bulky rim, and they're much easier just to kind of crush down together, and you can just literally pour it, one-handed. But I still think that's fine. But there is no technique involved in this. You don't need to tape, you don't need to squish, you don't need to do anything if you've got a split cup. So for that side-by-side pour, that is my recommendation. If you can find somebody, print it yourself, obviously, that's simple, but if you're already doing 3D printing, but if you don't have a 3D printer and don't print, it shouldn't be that hard to find somebody that can get you those things. I don't sell them personally. I don't want to I 3D print when I have to, kind of thing. I don't want to be doing it for a job. So let's see here. All right, I think that's it, guys. I think that's it. So next week we're going to be making a kitless pen out of, let's see, we're going to have to pick one of those things. I don't know. I may just decide whichever blank I like best, kind of whatever, whichever one really catches my fancy after I demold them. But I'll demold them like tomorrow or Monday. I mean, I'll probably demold them tomorrow, but the video of the demolding will probably come up tomorrow or Monday. And then next Saturday, we'll turn one of these guys into a, probably might end up taking 2 rounds to get everything done. Possibly. I'm just not that fast when it comes to turning kitless pens, bespoke ones. I don't know. We'll have to see. Whatever. We're going to start on the work next week. It should be pretty fun. So let's see here. STLs for dice files. Oh, that's cool. The Smith's Forge. Sweet. Actually, I want to look into that because I'm curious. The design that I got is fine, and maybe that's the one that, whatever, I found it on Thingiverse. I'm sure that he is there. Let's see, Smith's Forge. The Smith's Forge. I think it's the Smith's Forge. I'm spitting. I'm going to put a link to that for you guys if you want to check it out. I think this is it. I'm guessing. There's definitely 3D printing stuff going on here. Smith's Forge. I haven't found split cups, but I haven't really searched split. Split. I'm just going to put split. More about this channel. Not seeing any links to anything. So I don't know if that's what we were looking at or not. It looks like he does dice, so I think we're on the right path with that, but I'm not seeing anything where you can get cups necessarily. Just quickly looking, so you'll have to do a little bit more digging than me. But yeah, oh, he's on Etsy. Okay, yeah, so check out Etsy too. But he didn't have a link. Like, this thing didn't have a link to. I mean, if you're gonna have a channel, put links in your description. Maybe it's in like the description of a video. Hold on, let's see here. Oh, okay, there we go. Etsy. The Smith, yeah, so the smithsforge.etsy.com. There we go. Your own split cups. Huh. So I'll let you guys. I'm gonna put a link to this Smith's Forge thing if you want to check it out. The Etsy shop. Looks like that might be a place to get this stuff. Sweet. So thanks, Chris, for sharing that. Like I said, but I think, honestly, you don't even need to go to this Etsy store. I think you can go, there's a lot of places that you could get this done for free, depending on where you live and what you have around you. So anyway, I think that's about it, guys. I had fun. Hopefully you did too. And don't forget, check out, jakeblanks.com. I don't actually, let me look at my phone. Oh, the task is successful. So I got my top part, but anyway, I'm very excited to use these. It's going to be a cup holder. And he's got he's got a 6 cup for kind of smaller cups, and then a 4 cup for kind of your bigger 16 ounce or whatever cups. And it makes it a little bit easier if you've got a lot of cups going on, especially, I really like the small one. That's where I need help. I don't have too much of a problem holding the cup and stirring. Usually it's not that hard, but if you got like 12 small cups, like it's just, things are a mess, and it sucks if you, the worst is if you tip one cup over, you're doing a 12 color pour, So I don't know if anybody's really thought about this, but if you blow 1 cup, you don't have enough resin, right? And you can't, I mean, most likely you're not going to be able to like mix up more really quick. It's probably not going to be a good idea. I don't know. Maybe you could get it done, but it really helps to maintain not spilling your cups when you're kind of stirring in your mica powders and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very excited to have these. I'm going to make 2. He's got 3D print files. That's what I did. I bought the files, and I'm just missing the top plate that goes in this thing, and it's got 6 holes that I was going to print. But you can print your own with whatever colors, but the files come with the 6 or the 4, so both. You can print whatever you want. And then if you don't have a 3D printer though, I know where to get these. You can just go to jakeblanks.com. He sells the actual the physical hardware if you don't want to print your own or can't. So anyway, definitely check that out. Thanks, Jake, for a great design on these things. That that makes me cuss. It's the worst. Like when 1 cup dumps, you're just like, okay, I guess that the whole thing's blown. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, the blue and the white. I was like, oh, I think that's one of the fun things when you can buy print files and you're like, what color should I make these? And if you got a Bamboo Lab, you can make multiple colors on each part if you want. You got to get a Bamboo Lab. I love that thing with the multiple spools coming in. It does make it take a lot longer, but it's pretty cool. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining the fun this week. Again, thank you to everybody that came out to the Turner's Warehouse open house. That was awesome. Thank you for joining the fun, for meeting up, chatting, hanging out, all that good stuff. And yeah, I think that's about it. So I guess I'll see you guys on the next stream, and we'll do a little bit of bespoke pen turning. So I hope you have